Drew Creek. We've got a new face in the room, which is Inspector Steve Johnson, so I'll just introduce him before we start to give the police report. And we're just going to start with Claire, and she'll take over from here.
Okay, so as I mentioned last time, I'm not coming to do a prayer. I am hoping to rebrand it as a pause for thought. So I'm going to offer some words, and if you want to offer them to your God, whoever that may be, or the universe, or creation, or the goodness in mankind, humankind, which I'm sure there is somewhere, then feel free to do so. So today what I thought I was going to mention was, you've heard the expression that our words say a lot less about us than our actions, but sometimes our words are our actions. So I'm just going to offer you a thought about that. I've been seeing quite a lot on Facebook the meme with the words, before you speak, think to yourself, is it true, is it necessary, and is it kind? And I thought that that was a good way to conduct ourselves in general, but also here in particular, and wanted to suggest that from the purposes of this meeting, we add the line, is it to the benefit of the people of Newquay? So as we go through the meeting, I'm going to linger in the public gallery, but I suspect this will be another short meeting, and I'll feel cheated, because last time I came, I set in with my knitting, I was all good for the evening, and then we finished ridiculously early. So I'll be up there without my knitting, because I'll be in and out, presumably, we'll all be in and out. I want to leave you thinking about, if you're going to say something, is it true, is it necessary, is it kind, and does it serve the people of Newquay? So I commend that to whatever you believe in, and wish you well, and thank you for everything you're doing for Newquay.
Thank you. Just a bit of housekeeping, mobile phone switched off. There's no fire alarms this evening, so if they do go off, everybody here in the chamber will go out and turn to the left. Anybody in the gallery will go down the stairs. If when you speak, if you just say who you are just before you speak, so members of the public who are watching us, can hear you. I know they can probably see these yellow cards, but they may not be able to. So, first on the agenda is apologies.
Good evening, members. For the public, I'm the Town Clerk. I have apologies from Councillors Towell, Wright, Motta, Monk, Gardner and Bell.
Thank you.
Just in case it gets to it, I can't extend past 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Item 2 is interest matters, matters that might, I've forgotten the word, dispensations, as and when. Item 3, the minutes of the last meeting, which are back in August, which I chaired as well. I'm sure that you've read them, they're in your pack. If there's anything you want to ask, just raise your hand. If not, I'm happy to propose. If we've got a seconder, Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions, thank you. Matters arising, I don't think the... Oh, Councillor Kenny.
Yes, it's right at the top, 094/24, 066/24. Town Clerk informed the Town Clerk informed members that he had not received a response to the Newquay Clean meeting. Well, I think we've now had that. I attended a meeting on Monday where we were talking with the volunteers about setting up the Newquay Clean meeting again. They've been approached by Biffa, who are very keen to do it. They've been approached by Clean Cornwall, and apparently they've been approached by Newquay Town Council. So we were all given various jobs to go back and find out who was initiating this, and I, surprise, got the Town Council. So Laura looked it up for me, and it turns out it was me. So I mentioned it a couple of months ago when somebody came to the public gallery and talked about the tidiness of the town. So Newquay Clean is what I think people are talking about. Is it's going to be right on the same model as Newquay Safe. We have to sort out who's chairing it, how it's being administered, and whether it's proactive or active. But effectively, it is a venue where the services can come together. that have anything to do with the cleanliness of the town, and that spreads really quite wide because it can include the verges, it includes murals, I suppose it's basically anything that's not criminal. So I think that is I think it would be really good if Joe Ashton could attend as the provider, as one of the services. I think it worked very well last time, so that effectively if someone was doing a litter pick and somebody else was cutting the grass, the two got together so you didn't find yourself litter picking chopped up bits of plastic, because that was what was happening. So that's where we are. Newquay Clean looks like it's going to be reinstated. It looks like it is going to be a meeting of local representatives and the services, and those services will include those of the town council. I don't have to propose anything, do I?
No, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Brooke.
Yes, hello, Councillor Brooke. Just referring to 97/24, I think that's on page 2, I'm not sure, but it's in relation to my question last meeting about the IBABS issue. I'm just wondering, I just wanted to keep nudging that along and asking if we've got any updates. If not, could some come? So that's all.
Yep, thank you.
So I had a quick chat with the IT manager today. He has raised it with IBABS, the list that we seem to have recurring issues on. They are investigating some of them. One of the issues that we have is sometimes we get logged out and then we have to log back in, and that can disrupt, especially if you're using the app. They don't appear to be able to resolve that one. So we are looking now at something longer term, because it looks like that could be a long-term issue that we can't resolve.
Okay.
So is there a way that we can minute it just to keep the issue live so we can return to it? Yeah, great. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. So now I'll hand you over to Inspector Steve Johnson for the police report.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. I know that there are some familiar faces in the room who I've already said hello to. So, but for those that don't know me, my name is Steve Johnson. I'm the new Sector Inspector at Newquay. Took over in the middle part of July from Inspector Guy Blackford. I have worked at Newquay on and off for for nearly 24 years now. Keep gravitating back here. So I do know the town. So hopefully that should add some reassurance to you. I have sent out a brief crime report for you, which I'll go through and then obviously answer any questions at the end. So the first thing of note, I suppose, is that this month's crime is lower than last month's crime, which won't be any great surprise to you from previous experience. August is by far and away our busiest month. There were 355 crimes during August compared to 205 in September. Boardmasters made a big contribution to those figures in August. They contributed around 120 crimes. It was only 100 at the time of Boardmasters closing down, but by the sheer legacy of Boardmasters, another 20 crimes came in afterwards, people reporting after the event, etc. I will answer any questions on Boardmasters as well at the end if anybody's got any on there, obviously. There's been decreases in numerous crimes throughout September, but the noticeable increase was in shoplifting. I know that many of you have got vested interests and people that you know in the town that has a big effect on. One of the things that we looked at during August was shoplifting offences, and there was quite a big void of non-reporting. So as a result of that, we weren't able to direct patrols into those areas or even know what the type of things that we were looking for. So it was all anecdotal. So we encourage reporting, and as a result, we've seen that come in September. So the crime figures for shoplifting went up, which allowed us then to direct a little bit more. And at the time of writing, as you'll see in the report, there was somebody in custody. They've since been charged with 8 offences and they're awaiting sentencing in about a week and a half. There is a chart which I think some of you will have seen before, which kind of shows the crime figures over the last 12 months. You'll see the noticeable spike in August, which is due to Boardmasters naturally. And I don't know how well it's been explained to you in the past, but there are control limits within that graph. So there are 2 turquoise lines, an upper turquoise line and a lower turquoise line. That's what we call the control strategy. So there where we like to keep the crime figures. The navy blue line in the middle is about previous year statistics, so that's where we like to keep the crime below. And you'll see in September that we are below for every week bar one, and that was only by 6 crimes. So although the graph can look quite scary, it's important to put that into context with the amount of crimes that we receive here in Newquay. We're not talking about big amounts at all. So that's kind of where we're at with the crime figures and crime numbers. There are other bits and pieces that we're doing, and obviously I expect some questions given a few bits and pieces that's been going on in the town over the recent weeks. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that, or boardmasters, I should say.
Any questions from anybody? Councillor Kenny, Councillor Morris, then Councillor Slade, then Councillor Williams.
Yes, magic word, boardmasters. What sort of crimes are we talking about? Drugs, petty theft?
So boardmasters' crimes were up slightly this year. There were just under 100 for last year. There was 120, as I said, for this year. There's an interesting breakdown in that there's reductions in many crimes. So there are reductions in the sexual offences kind of reports, which is good news, obviously, but it's probably down to some of the safeguarding bits and pieces that were put in place over the previous year. The increase and the reason that it's up is because of drug reports. So that's drugs trafficking and drugs possession. And I don't necessarily think that there are any more drugs or any more drug deals taking place at Boardmasters this year. It was the way that we dealt with it, and a lot of those were proactive drug stops. So we worked on intelligence, and we were able to track vehicles that were coming to the site itself, and we used that intelligence to our benefit. So they contribute to Boardmasters figures, but they're intelligence based from somewhere else, and kind of demonstrate the proactive approach that we had to it this year.
Did you find the increased numbers a problem, or did that just got absorbed?
Well, I'm sure that many people in this room have got anecdotal evidence of things that maybe didn't go according to plan at Boardmasters this year. There were 58,000 people at Boardmasters this year, which is an increase on the previous year. The actual site itself absorbed those numbers, and I'll be interested to hear from anybody from the town area what they felt, but my feeling was, working every night through Boardmasters, but primarily focused on the town, was that actually the nighttime economy wasn't affected by those numbers at all. So the site wasn't affected by the numbers, nor was the town. The incidents primarily came from when they approached the beaches on those summer days. So we had the Friday, which was a really nice warm day. The Sunday was a really nice warm day, happened to coincide with low tide and happened to coincide with good surf. So lots and lots of people went down to the beach, which had an effect that way. All of which has been debriefed, by the way, and is something that we're looking at for next year for various surveys and coastal and approaches from a coastal point of view. But in terms of the added numbers, I don't think it was an issue for the site. However, given the issues that they had this year when people left site, I doubt very much that they'll put in an application to increase it even further for next year.
Going down to the beach didn't increase crime?
No, it was more a case of the issue was the low water time. So lots of people went down to the beach, and then we'd got a turning tide. So the beach was full and the tide was coming in, and that created a bit of an issue, and we had to work with the Silver Room up at the site to ensure that we were closing gates. And then we had a slight issue. Well, we had an issue that people then went to port instead, which is a natural reaction, isn't it? If the sun's out and and everybody wants to go to the beach. But we need to work on that for next year, and we'll be working that in collaboration with the other agencies.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm not sure. Councillor Morris and then Councillor Slade. Oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll strike you out.
Thank you. Two things. One, I work in the nighttime economy, and for us, it was a massive improvement and we love the way that it worked down in Porth. The other thing is, on your figures, where does Bilking go?
That goes on other thefts. So yeah, those figures can be broken down even further, but it was. I suppose my question to you is, how much do you want them breaking down? I know that different inspectors over recent years have given you slightly different things. Maybe I'm quite happy to be guided by you and provide whatever figures you like. They would fall under other thefts. So I guess you're asking from a taxi point of view. Yeah.
That's Councillor Williamson and then Councillor Larson.
Thank you for that update. As we are heading into winter and Christmas parties and other festivity type related things, I was just wondering what your plans were going to be for the protection of women and girls, but also all population from things like spiking and other types of activities.
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. So we have at the moment got the hotspot policing who are out during certain days of the week. In fact, they've been out every day in the afternoon. That won't continue over Christmas, but 3 days they will. And those hotspot policing officers are driven by crime figures and statistics. So they will be out on certain nights. As we approach Christmas, we're obviously driven by the nighttime economy because that's the kind of areas that we're talking about. I've had discussions with a few people about moving our mobile camera to an area that's become of note to us. So we'll be looking at moving that. And the spiking, we've made quite significant inroads into that type of offence over recent months. I've had a number of discussions today with somebody about a recent incident actually, and we've got somebody in custody at the moment. I can't say any more than that because it's a live investigation, but we've got somebody in custody at the moment for an offence. So that is something that we take seriously. We've got the spiking kits at the station. All the pubs and clubs have got the spiking kits as well. They're aware of the Ask for Angela initiative as well, and we work with Pub Watch to ensure that we raise the profile around those things coming towards Christmas. All right.
Okay. Councillor Larson.
Thank you. That was really helpful because I've had those reports about the spiking in past years.
Yeah.
Fantastic to hear someone's in custody if that person was guilty. And good work to the team on that and just the attention generally to obviously a really tricky issue. As I say, it's been raised a few times to a number of us. Just to your question a moment ago, yes, great to see the updates. Thank you, really helpful insights and on board masters. And would love to see that breakdown as Councillor Morris was referencing, because that was very helpful in past years, just that one more page with the types of...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if it's not too much trouble. If it's too much trouble, let us know. But if it's not too much trouble, then really helpful for us. Thank you. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Any other questions? Does anybody in the gallery want to ask the inspector a question? That's Cornwall Councillor John Fitter.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wondered if you could give me an indication of who has the overall management of the various traffic regulations that were brought in to deal with the Boardmasters. I'm thinking about the one-way system that was brought in from Pale Corner to Watergate Bay, the park and ride. Who has the actual overall management of those?
Okay, so that is that's partly run by the Highways Agency, or they have the overall control over it. So the Highways Agency have control over it. They take part in the collaboration meetings. So when we meet prior to the event, which starts in January every year, so it's not a case of meeting a few weeks before, it is a slow build-up. We discuss what traffic implications are going to arise and how they can manage it. In terms of managing it, though, that comes down to Vision 9, who operate the event, and they employ a private management company or a private traffic management company, who are then given the powers then to carry out the traffic control system around the site. I know that there were a number of issues with it this year. I had a number of telephone calls on Wednesday morning because of the traffic control. So I know there are a number of issues. All of those have been fed back into the debriefs and will be discussed for next year moving forward, because clearly it didn't quite work as well as planned this year, did it?
So the police service, in actual fact, at some stage will audit what happened.
Yes.
I feel there's numerous things, but an example that I give to you, you may have, is at Pale Corner coming out from the airport. There was a one-way system in effect, and you had a gentleman sitting there who was stopping the cars and saying, "Oh, where are you going?" And they would say, "Well, he said, okay, you can go, but you can't come back, it's a one-way system." But the point was that no one was monitoring what was happening in Tregarin itself, or indeed, and so everyone in there was turning up the road. So people driving down, some people were driving down the middle of the road thinking it's a one-way system, and cars were coming up, you know, because there was no control on the exit coming out. So I hope that they can sort of get that sorted for next year.
Yeah.
If they have a one-way system.
Okay, yeah, so I have got a number of examples of similar things, but I hadn't heard that one, so thank you. I will pass that back in, because clearly, like I said, there were things that were wrong with that traffic management system this year, so we'll, yeah, so that'll build into the planning for the next.
It's the visitors, the local people were aware of it.
Yeah.
The visitors on the campsites, and there's 3 campsites there, they, you know, they were strange. Okay, thanks.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else want to? No. Thank you very much for coming. We'd love you to stay for the rest of the evening, but we know that you'll have to scrape yourself away from here. But thanks for coming anyway.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So we're now on to item 6, which is an open session for the electors of Newquay. We've had no written questions, so I hand over to the gallery. Any questions from the gallery? No. So we now move on to correspondence, which there is no correspondence.
This is the one email, Steve Bailey and Mr. Bailey.
Oh, sorry, 7A. We have an email which we had the last time about the lithium-ion batteries and e-bikes. So I'm going to recommend that we send this information over to the transport portfolio at Cornwall Council, because actually the Beryl bikes are Cornwall Council's, and, you know, let them deal with it as a whole rather than us piecemeal. I don't know how other people feel about that. It's not... Okay. Everybody in favour of us referring it? Did you want to ask?
I'm abstaining from that vote.
Okay. Did you vote?
2 abstentions.
Did you vote, Councillor Hannon? Sorry, you might have put, yeah. And Councillor Morris, were you voting or no? I did. Pardon? You put your hand up, thank you. It's 2 abstentions. So we're now on to item 8, the financial statements. So you've obviously had a copy of all the invoices. I'm going to propose, if we've got a seconder, Councillor Thompson, if you've got any questions about the payments, obviously we won't be able to answer them, but we can refer them to Anne or Levi. So no questions, so we'll vote on that. All in favour? Any abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention. So 9A is the Cornwall Airport briefing document. Unfortunately, Councillor Gardner's not here this evening, and as a result, we're not really able to ask any questions, because, you know, it's his agenda item. And obviously he wasn't here at the last meeting. So we are going to, the clerk is going to email him and, you know, see if we can get him to the next meeting, because it's really important. He's a town councillor and a Cornwall councillor, and we got an apology this afternoon he wouldn't be coming. But obviously you can email him yourself if you want to, but we're going to do a general email from the town.
Can I just ask, what is the item other than for noting the memo? I mean, what are we being asked to do here? Was it an opportunity for questions about that?
Yeah,
oh, right, I
we've
see
been
what
able
you mean.
to ask
Yeah.
questions,
Okay.
but we can't because they're
Yeah,
not here.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So I'm going to propose that we, as a group here this evening, write an email. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Williamson. All in favour? Yes, everybody. We then come on.
Let's go back now to Cornwall Council.
Oh, did I skip over that? Oh, You were so thrilled, weren't you, Councillor Fitter, that I skipped over the open session for the Cornwall councillors. We have none here but yourself. So I don't know if you've got any information to give us.
Very modest contribution.
Yeah.
Madam Deputy Mayor. I've been away, in fact, on my related summer holiday. So I haven't got a lot to report.
No, thank you.
With the exception that I should say to you that amongst the correspondence I received when I returned, somebody's reported the stile has disappeared from one of the paths that were closed under the regulation orders in concerns with the boardmasters. This is a stile that was positioned on a public footpath at the boardmaster site, and whilst the regulation order closing the path has been obviously terminated because boardmasters is over, the stile has not reappeared, and the person has indicated to me that this stile was purchased with ratepayers' money to the value of £1,200, and so he wants to know what's happened to the stile and why has it disappeared. So I pass that over to Mr. Monk, who is the Cormac chappie, and sort of get a question. The clerk may have received today an email from the CAP lady setting out all the awards that have been awarded thus far. But I don't know if any of you were observant enough to trawl down through and see, I think it was the second to last, which gave an award to the Memorial Hall for, I think, £5,100 or something. But unfortunately, the picture that is pertaining in the front is not the Memorial Hall. So I think that's a slight error. If it only was the Memorial Hall, everyone would be rather happy, because, as you know, with the Memorial Hall, there's the working party on it, and they're doing great stuff. And they've got the plans already drawn up, a slight remnant, because it will be demolished, hopefully, and rebuilt. I've had an email back from Mr. Mason, who is head of enforcements. He's asked to meet with me to discuss the state of the situation at the Paradise Cove development site, and the reason why, because I've been concerned about the lack of secure fencing on the cliff side of that particular site. I'm worried that given the high winds we get and you know, the fencing on the roadside can fall down and trespassers will go in, and quite frankly it's going to be quite dangerous. So I've been pressing the developers and enforcement to say, look, for goodness sake, let's get it fenced off properly. Back in, it can be done. So I'm meeting with him to do that, and so I think that concludes it. The only thing I would say is that you mentioned about a briefing for the we had at Cornwall Council yesterday, we had a briefing on the current state of play relating to the negotiations for I'm not much wiser from what was said, because no one seems to know, but it's certainly ongoing, and I'm sure Councillor Gardner will give you as much information as he can without breaching confidential matters, and that is the problem. I think they're heavily involved in confidential matters, and so what's available to us is very little, you know, but I'm sure it will come clear in the fullness of time.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kenny, you've got a question?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I had noticed they got the wrong picture for the Memorial Hall. So is the money going to the Memorial Hall, or is it going to this place halfway down Church Street?
No, it's going to the Memorial Hall. It's going to be helped to be paying. They've already had the architect plans drawn up, and they're working, and so that money will go partly to that, and to start the process of getting building costs for the design, and then the next step will be to go out for funding.
So they've just got the wrong picture.
They've got the wrong picture.
Oh, no, I know where
absolutely, yes. Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you for that. So now on to item 10, committee minutes and reports. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure how appropriate this is, but it was only that Councillor Fitter mentioned the fact about developments, that people have raised the concern with me, which was probably for one of the councillors that's not here. But I just wondered, what it is the Bristol Hotel and the Narrowcliffe next door. Obviously, they're going to be demolished now, and that plan is going through. But we had this situation years ago where hotels were getting ready to be demolished, then just sat there and fell apart in front of everyone's eyes. Obviously, there was the fire at the Narrowcliffe, but the Bristol's starting to deteriorate, like tiles coming off the roof. And where it is, and with the winds, and you have tiles flying across the road. So I wonder if there's any kind of way we could get our Cornwall councillors, or we could ask if there's any pressure to advance at least the demolition of them, if not the rebuild for the developer, just because, well, one, they're an eyesore, and two, they're going to start becoming more and more of a hazard. So I don't quite know how we go about that. But,
I think Councillor Kenny,
Councillor Kenny
might
asked.
be able to
We did once have a committee that looked into derelict hotels, didn't we, way back?
We
John
did. I
Rainbow.
think it's interesting because, as you probably know, that we fought against this planning application, lost. And then we've had a recent application which says, oh, by the way, I know you passed it because it was providing housing, and now we no longer want to provide the housing. So they are basically saying we want to not build the housing at the back. I think they still want to build the block, they just don't want to provide it as a retirement home. So I suppose while they are thinking about that, but I don't think there's any legal right to push them onto fixing it. Except if people will report loose tile. I mean, it breaks my heart to see that they're going to knock the Bristol down, but I mean that is what happened. But what we're now saying is, well, we hated you knocking it down, but you can't leave it in a decaying state. Yeah, they're saying, oh, well, we didn't realise it would take such a long time for the surgery to move to the new surgery. And you're thinking, what? It was only 6 months ago, and we all knew the new surgery was delayed. So I'm not quite sure where they're coming from on that. So I know once they got their planning permission.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Have you got a question, Councillor Larson, or an answer? Okay.
I just wonder, I feel like we may have brought the attention of the Health Safety Executive when we sent a letter about Whipsodary. So I'm wondering if it might be worth us doing that instead. Writing a one-page letter saying we have these concerns, and particularly if there are any particular resident comments, and I've actually been concerned going past it as well. And it took a few months, I think, in the Whipsodary case, but it looks as though they eventually did actually look at it. So thank you. Okay, wonderful.
Do you want to put that forward as a proposal?
Seeing that we do that, sorry, thank you if I may.
Got a seconder?
Sorry, before we get...
Seconder, and then we'll...
Oh, all right, I will second it, yeah.
Okay,
But can I raise a point about that? So I think it's a good idea in principle. The point I was making was that I think it's incumbent on us to gather some evidence and produce some evidence. If we're going to write to them, we've got a reason for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making a good case about what's happening, but I think they would probably want to see it laid out so that let's help them make some decisions about this. So if you've got a case to bring, then provide some cases and some examples and some evidence, and we can include that. I don't know how you might want to go about that. But.
I propose an amendment then that we take a week to email to our clerk, and within a week then you might have something. Thank you.
And all in favour of that proposal? Councillor Morris, are you putting your hand up or no?
Grudgingly.
Well, no, you don't. It's a yes or no.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So now we're on to committee minutes. Governance and Resources sat on Monday evening. Obviously the minutes aren't there, but we have two recommendations. One is to release 11,176 from the utilities EMR. So I just need a vote on that. I'm happy to propose. Seconder. All in favour? Yeah, thank you. And then we had another recommendation to release 10,000 from the staff EMR. And this is really a follow-on from the corporate plan, going forward, the outcome, etc. So I'm happy to propose that. We could have a seconder. All in favour? Objection? Abstention?
Yeah, abstention.
Okay. That's it. There wasn't, was there enough?
The only last one is the corporate plan under this recommendations. It's not set out.
Oh, to adopt the corporate plan. 10B, sorry. So then 10B, the corporate plan, which was on the GNR agenda. So we want to adopt it. So I'm happy to propose, if we've got a seconder for that. Councillor Thompson, all in favour of the adoption? Thank you. Sorry about that. So 10C and 10D, I was going to say hand over to Community and Tourism, but there's nobody here. Anybody sit on the Community and Tourism Committee? Oh, Councillor Cheney, that's why I was going to put you sitting there. See, I knew.
If you don't mind, Madam Mayor, I'm going to sit down for this one.
Oh, so the minutes, we've had the minutes.
No, those minutes are there.
Sorry, yeah, go on, sorry.
And so if you forgive me, Madam Mayor, I intend to sit down for
And
this
quite
one.
rightly so.
Otherwise, you'll need your nursing skills to get me up again.
Limited.
I think the first one I've got to present to the full council is the extraordinary meeting on the 6th of August.
Yeah.
So I propose that they be accepted.
I'm happy to second. All in favour of those minutes? Objections, abstentions? Councillor Morris is abstaining. And then there was another meeting on the...
And the other meeting was on the 19th of September. And I propose those to being submitted.
Happy to... You seconding, Councillor Googe, all in favour of those? No, yeah. We're just testing you, Councillor Hannah. Seeing you've been on holiday, just checking in that you're on the ball. You objecting or abstaining, Councillor? Abstaining. Were there some releases from that recommendation?
I believe so.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through them all?
If you would, Madam Mayor, it's easy if you've got
Okay.
stuff there.
So recommendation D1 was for 2,102 from the CCTV earmark releases. Happy to propose. We have a seconder in the room, Councillor Googe. All in favour? Any objections, abstentions? Councillor Morris. Recommended B is £3,000 release from the Visit Newquay TIC EMR, and that's to we've got an independent company coming in on Monday. I'm talking at the moment.
I have to abstain from this.
I'm talking at the moment to start this work on Monday, and we just want, to make sure the money has been released, £3,000. So I'm proposing, need a seconder, and then we can ask questions. So we've got a seconder for that, Councillor Cheney. So you've got a question? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Councillor Larson.
It says for an independent review, not the actual development of the website.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I built one for my own company last year, and it cost me that much just to build it, plus the meetings to review it. Have we mapped that we feel we really need to spend that much to? Okay, and I presume, does that then mean that the website developer would probably be the same person? So that is essentially the consultation on what we want. Is that?
So if I just come back on that, so this is a £3,000 independent review of the existing website. The existing website costs the council about £25,000 to develop because it's a destination management site, so it's got a lot of booking systems, so it was felt to review that now ahead of, I think, June or July next year is when it's actually the contract's up. So it's a case of deciding, do you want to stick with what you've got? Do you want to update what you've got with the same provider, subject to tendering rules and all that, or do you want to have a completely new website and it will be looking at, you know, opportunities around new technology? Can it feed the bid website, for example? There's things like that. So we want an independent review, so there's no bias, and then we can actually have a full-on cost about all the options, so we can actually have a proper plan.
That would feed into an RFP if we did want to write. It would sort of write half the RFP essentially in a way. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Morris and then Councillor Kenny.
I actually advertise on Visit Newquay, so I actually can't. I've got a declaration of interest anyway.
That's fine. Councillor Kenny, you need to probably leave the room now.
How much have we got in the EMR, and is it going to, you know, how is it leaving? I mean, I seem to remember we've got quite a lot into it, but we just saying take 3,000 out, just to make sure there is actually 3,000 in there.
Yep, there's £68,000 sitting in the EMR for the TIC.
Thank you. So we're now going to vote. We've proposed, seconded. All in favour? Lovely, thank you. You can come back in, Councillor Morris. And then the third recommendation was the Pulse Smart Hub proposal. Obviously, I don't sit on C&T. I do know what it is, but I'll let the clerk explain because he'd be probably much more succinct than myself.
Well, same caveat really. I don't go to C&T, but I have had a briefing. So effectively, we have been approached by a firm that has done this. I think I'm right in saying it's Belfast, but I could be wrong there, so don't quote me. So this is effectively a company that comes in, they put in some smart hubs, they're calling them, but they're effectively the screens that we were about to install or commission one outside the front of this building. They do a number of them across the area, and they will have advertising on them, but they'll also provide key information, you know, where are you, where's the nearest X, Y, and Z. But they also have the ability to have so defib machines, free phone calls for emergencies, and Wi-Fi. So it was felt actually, instead of us having one screen that may immediately become redundant when these screens go forwards, if they progress forwards, which we understand they're planning to, let's think about working with them as opposed to doing our own thing. There is no cost to the council, so it is only officer time and member time in terms of liaising with them, and we can actually help shape where they go, what they're doing, how many they have. So it's actually, we feel much better if we engage and help with that process. And as part of that process, they will then give us some free space to actually advertise things like events and agendas and things like that on their screens. There is a list on the attachment of their proposed locations. They're only proposed. It's obviously subject to landowner consent and planning if they need planning. So this is only early stages, but it's just getting the green light from council that you're happy with us approaching this route as opposed to spending the SIL money on one screen outside the front of this building. So it's just making sure we're on the right track.
Councillor Kenny.
Presumably they're approaching us rather than us approaching them. So really what you're asking for is, in principle, if it's as squeaky clean and as good as they say it is, what would then happen? Would you come back to the council, or just...
They're happy to do a presentation.
Are we giving you delegated authority? Not that I mind giving delegated.
I think the plan would be that the committee leads on it, but we just want the green light. They are happy to do presentations. They're happy to answer any questions. And so it's really down to members how much information you would like going forwards, and probably have it led through C&T committee as they're the kind of leads for community and tourism and information.
Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you. I think this came out as to everybody, didn't it, as a memo?
Yeah.
Because I returned that with sort of suggestions for changing some of the placements for these. The one that's on the A392, sort of like in the middle of nowhere, really, and you know, and having there's this cluster of the ones in the middle of town, and I know they want them to be in public places, but you know, Porth Beach I thought would be quite, you know, on our loos down there would be quite a good place for them, and I don't know how do they go as far as Watergate? Would it go as far? Yeah. So I think, you know, that cluster that we have around in town, I think needs spreading out, you know, from, you know, out from further from that. So I think the locations do need looking at. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. Do we have we done an analysis on the type of information that we were going to put on it? Should it be a kind of Newquay Council-led information sharing portal versus a commercial site clearly making money from advertising on it? Because the objectives of both are quite different. Whereas a machine led by Newquay Town Council providing information would probably be quite focused on what we wanted to have on it and you know, for the community, whereas they might just, when you go onto websites and you can't get to the actual information you're looking for because it's just constant advertising and it's very, very frustrating. So I guess that would be my concern, that what they put on it isn't actually the intention of what we want it to do. And secondly, should they ever be vandalised, is there a, I can't remember the term for it now, but no, a requirement for them to fix it within a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
I'll do my best, because obviously I've only had a briefing on this. I've not been intimately involved. So I do understand there's a company that would work locally to clean them on a regular, I don't know whether it was 2 weekly or monthly basis, but it is as regular as monthly. Any vandalism gets covered, so they just sort it out straight away. I understand that the advertising that they sell isn't place specific, it's more about items. So it won't be go to Burger King, for example. It'll be more about, this particular product, some kind of aftershave or something like that. So they don't have it so it's difficult for them to roll out across the rest of Cornwall, because I think their intention is to grow across Cornwall. So Newquay's the first spot, but I think they are talking, I believe, to other areas. In terms of an analysis, we haven't done that. So quite clearly, if we have our own bespoke sign, it will have everything that we want on it. I think the officers involved, some of the members of the committee, were very much, let's look at what this does first, get more information. Obviously, we've touched on locations, and they're very open to changing locations, but we can't engage without this green light. So I think that's the next step, to see where we go to, agree where the red lines are, and then we may find ourselves wanting to still install a sign if we feel that we need it afterwards, or to let someone like Newquay Bid take over the discussions. I think by staying involved, we can actually have that input on locations and what these signs actually show, including whether it's the Visit Newquay website or whether it's a different one.
Sorry, last question. I think, how are they powered? Because I think if they can be powered through, you can see some machines have solar panels on the top of them and things. So if they can be self-generating from a power perspective, that would be very lovely.
I think they try to do that. I think they do try and have solar panels.
Yeah.
I was just building on what Councillor Williamson said in terms of, we don't want like them advertising, skiing holidays abroad. We don't want to advertise effectively any other tourism competition. From being in Belfast, we're a very different environment to Belfast, and I can see a very different products. So it would be good to see what product list they do come out with. Yeah.
So all we're asking for tonight is for the C&T committee, with Joe Pawecki leading on it, to speak to these people. They have said they'll come and do a presentation, so whether it be to C&T or to us as a full council, I'm not sure, but we'll make sure that Joe Pawecki and both Councillor Wright and Surrey, know the things that have been asked this evening, and you can always email them both yourself so they've got it as a record. So I'm happy to propose they get the green light. If we've got a seconder, Councillor Williamson, all in favour? Lovely, thank you. And back to 10B, the minutes of the ENF on the 10th of September, I'm happy to propose. We have a seconder, Councillor Slade, all in favour? Lovely, thank you. We're now on to, The minutes of planning, I'll hand you over to Councillor Kenny.
Thank you. I have pleasure in presenting for noting the minutes of the 24th of July, the 31st of July and the 14th of August.
Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favour? That's everybody. Thank you for that. We're now on to Newquay Town Council, but there isn't any information to hand out. We're on to any other business. So at this point, I'm just going to recommend that as a council, we write to the Reverend Jane Kneebone, who has stepped down from being the chaplain to the mayor, you know, her decision, but she has done it for a number of years. So I'm going to propose, if I could have a seconder, that we write a letter and it's minuted in the minutes this evening, you know, that she's been a great asset to the town council. So all in favour of that? Lovely, thank you. So I'm just going to go around the room. Any other business, Councillor Cheney?
No, although that's the next item referring to, future meeting. Do we have a meeting in November?
Budget setting, is it?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's December.
I said budget 18th of December, so I was...
Yeah.
So at the moment, that is the plan. So at the May meeting, we decided as a council that you wouldn't have a November meeting because it frees up capacity to do more meetings for budget if needed. So we may have another GNR meeting, for example. Although I do understand that at GNR, we did make the case that we may need to move the timetable for budget setting. As soon as that becomes apparent, members will be informed and we'll obviously circulate the new dates. And that's around a server failure where the finance package was unavailable for at least a month. So that's delayed everything. But we're trying to stay on track. Committee members, particularly ENF committee, are getting their budgets via email, I think, by the end of this week. So we're going to make sure that that's working first before we start looking at any delays.
Lovely.
But as it stands, there isn't a meeting on the 6th of November.
No.
There is actually, it's planning and licensing.
Wait.
Councillor Slade, anything? Councillor Morris? Councillor Googe? Williamson? Brooke? Thompson? Larson? Councillor Hannan?
No, thank you.
Councillor Kenny? Anything from the clerk?
Thank you.
Lovely. So, yes, it was a pretty quick meeting, so I declare it closed. And thank you, everybody, for coming.